Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Green shoots. So let me just, oh, we got it. Just checking on the clicker. But I really wanted to, as we're having, the conversations about green shoots, and most of them are all fantastic. I've taken notes, but they're tactical, a lot of them. And I think what's important here, what we've noticed in terms of boosting our revenue, is how our mission and our mantra of making change happen ultimately attracted partners and boosted our revenue. And for 35 years, The Independent has advocated for change, challenging and debating to make change happen. And that mantra runs through everything we do: our journalistic integrity, advocating for women's rights, equality for all, and climate. We've partnered both editorially and commercially with organizations like We Are Eight, Blue Earth Summit, Harlem Grown. And change isn't just baked into our edit, it's also baked into our advertising. We have big brands that people trust. We build them with making change happen mission. The mission's in mind in everything we build. We want communities to feel authentic. We're large and truly global, and that's a big responsibility. So we utilize, excuse me, we utilize editorial to expand our possibilities and in turn, expand our media creativity. In fact, trust is at the heart of our growth. And we've been lucky enough to experience year-over-year growth for the last 6 consecutive years globally. In fact, our readers actually trust our brands.
The Independent has always worked to inspire positive change, to encourage and not judge, to inform but not preach. And now, from tech to beauty to furniture, brands are recognizing that their consumers want and demand that positive change. Now our readers care more about climate than ever. And more than that, they want to do something about it. They want to make change happen. Looking back at 35 years of The Independent, I'm overwhelmed by how many other brands are now putting purpose at the core of what they do. And just as important as our independence is that we respect our readers to draw their own conclusions. And it's that combination of our independent journalism and our independently minded readers that together creates this powerful platform for positive change.
I want to talk a minute about trust. I think Christian alluded to it, but obviously in the world we're in today, there has never been more misinformation out there, fake news, and bias. And what we're really rooted in is our trust and authenticity. So there is a company, it's called NewsGuard. It is a third-party source. It's where journalists can review and seek out misinformation and truth. And they're rating thousands of sites. So The Independent, of course, we have to toot our own horn a little bit, right? It got a 100 out of 100 score, right? The best. Okay. But other sites did too, right? The New York Times got 100 out of 100 and a couple others. But most didn't. The HuffPo, the BBC, CNN. So when people are coming for a truthful and unbiased voice, they're coming to The Independent. And at the end of the day, that is what is driving our global growth.
And we're growing around the world too, from the Middle East to Moscow. We're hiring into Taiwan to cover China and into Africa to cover climate change. We're already in 6 different languages with a dedicated website for Latin American readers, independentenespanol.com. It's an audience that's as exciting for us in the US as it is throughout Latin America. We started Independent Espanol about a year ago. Because we have this kind of multilingual global ambition and commitment, we were already in 5 languages at that point. And we wanted to look at really the next biggest language for us was actually a readership cohort that was largely in the US. and it was the Latin America kind of diaspora within the US. But it's picking up great traction right the way down the chain of countries. We have an editing team which is based across California and Florida at the moment, and we have a series of journalists who are largely in Mexico. The readership has really accelerated in the past kind of 3 months, I'd say.
Our advertisers enable us to create fantastic content that we really find engaging and our audiences find engaging. So there's nothing weird. There's no kind of sense that it is a distraction or in some ways even unsavory, which I know, having worked in publishing for this long, that is often sometimes the case between editorial and commercial. We absolutely embrace our editorial partners.
In times of change and in times of flux, and Lord knows we're in that, people like news brands that stand for something. And it's not enough just to stand for something. You have to be able to take action and make the world a little different, a little better.
How do you make people want to absorb difficult art in a difficult world? And I think that is really the job of an artist, especially an artist in the activist space, is to be able to make it palatable while also still urging people consciously or subconsciously to think outside of their normal patterns.
That you get to platform all of these voices from across the country. You get to reach out to people in Tennessee and say, okay, what do you actually think of this? I just want to take your first person perspective and put it up there because everybody's talking about what Tennesseans think of this issue, and they're building up this stereotype, and I'd really like to get Skylar, for instance, writing about this.
Part of what we do is speak to people that aren't are talked over.
Yeah.
We like to, instead of writing about people, we'll go and talk to them and give them a chance to speak.
We spend so much time talking about these issues that affect people, but we very rarely take the time to talk to them.
Yeah.
I think that's just as important as giving.
We'll let them talk.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that you did that and the fact that you gave them their voice, well, I take it back. You didn't give her a voice. She had a voice, but you amplified her voice. That's the best thing we can do in journalism. We're supposed to, to borrow from Public Enemy, fight the power, but also, we're also supposed to, protect.
Use our own power responsibly.
But the scale is, we're a big voice now. We're top 10 US news provider, the biggest quality news provider, news brand in Britain. Up to 100 million users in many months. Enormous on social media, where we find that it's actually these really fundamental, important stories that share well for us. It's not just about social media. It's not just about trivial stuff or kind of meme pictures of celebrities. It is actually, people out there care, and it's because of people on social media. What shares on social media? Whatever human beings are going to share on social media. And if you write your journalism about important subjects and get it to connect, some really fundamental things can be distributed.
So that was from our Soho House event that we had, where we invited members of the media, clients, as well as the UN was even there. And we had the voices of every facet of our business unifying and talking about making change happen. So as you can see, we utilize our editorial, and we're capable of making things happen. As I said before, our scale is driven by trust. Brands are attracted to this level of trust and choose to join our mission. They trust our advertising. We highlight this when we're in market talking to brands. We use the research and sources like NewsGuard and Jounce to validate our content and credibility in our mission. We create defensible data to back our claims up. So we don't just say something, we come with the receipts. And ultimately, we make change happen for brands. And many of the world's leading brands work with us for this reason. Making change happen in turn has directly affected our growth and profitability. We've seen a boost in revenue from mission-driven campaigns. Being mission-driven has an added bonus. The campaigns are usually more 360 in nature. Our extensions for these programs not only tie the missions together for the brands, but it also allows the level of investment to go beyond the CPM. Overall, the extensions from these programs boosted our revenue, give us a 5 million lift, a dozen new partners. And I'm going to show you an example. We partnered with Galaxy to create the Ripple Effect, and it was an episodic video series highlighting inspiring women sharing life advice for other women. The campaign was a series of videos, custom content, media, and it culminated in a live awards ceremony.
It's really difficult for young women to build up their confidence with money when they have less money.
I couldn't agree more. Don't worry about how you feel in terms of confidence, but focus on the courage to go forward despite how you feel.
I say to myself each day, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have a good network around you, whether it's mentors, whether it's sponsors, whether it's coaches, whether it's friends.
It's so good to hear that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Yes.
Overall, our strategy was underpinned by the work of the Young Women's Trust, and we armed our readers with inspiration and resources to make an impact in their own lives and in their own communities. The campaign details, as I mentioned, 360 approach, was an immersive hub. 6 custom videos we created, 9 written features, 2 bespoke homepage takeovers, supporting display and social media, and it all culminated in a live event. A second example of mission-driven and how we've attracted big brands was Samsung Work Wonders. The Work Wonders was a 3-part video series showcasing diverse and colorful businesses that have inspiring stories to tell.
For the second series of Work Wonders with Samsung, we're in Birmingham. Traditionally known as an industrial powerhouse, Birmingham is now home to a growing number of successful creative and digital businesses, earning its new reputation as Europe's tech playground, which hosts some of the most exciting SMEs around. We are going to meet 3 companies who are using technology to revolutionize the way they do business.
These videos told human stories about sustainability and community advancement, aligning with that mission of making change happen. And it worked great for Samsung. They over-delivered with a 94% positive sentiment. So overall, I'm sharing stories about The Independent to talk about new perspectives and green shoots, and to give some recommendations based on some of the success that we've seen. Define your voice. Figure out who you are. You can't be everything to all people. Stay consistent with messaging throughout all facets of your business. And media platforms are brands. As a brand, stand behind something and stand for something, and you'll attract partners in turn. Thank you.
Thank you, Kylie. Questions for Kylie? How do you talk brands down from their usual concerns about audience backlash, about being identified with the wrong cause or tripping into the wrong audience? How do you protect the brands that are working with you?
Great question. So we like to talk about mission-driven in the way of storytelling. The Independent is not politically aligned one way or another. We stand for tentpoles, we stand for moments, and we try to help our brands be able to deliver messages for human good without necessarily isolating one group or another. So when we do approach brands, it's more about what story would you like to tell? how will you be sending that message across? And we kind of ask them to stray away from like the smaller scale allegiance or alignment to an entity or a group and talk about the greater mission.
So you're avoiding alliances with specific groups and sort of aiming towards larger.
Yeah,
larger causes
so
and
as a
issues.
brand and with our Making Change Happen, we very much support climate, women's rights, LGBTQIA. We do, support these ideologies and missions, but we are not supporting a political affiliation. We're not supporting necessarily a certain group. And we operate by telling stories because at the end of the day, we're a media company and our journalists are tasked with fact-driven, well-documented, and sourced content. So we have that Making Change mission, but when we bring on partners, we're telling them to tell the stories, and the stories kind of define schools of thought and missions within them.
And since, as you illustrated here, you're a global organization, where is this stuff being organized physically? And how is it, where is the ideation coming? How much of it is localized? How much of it is actually being centralized with a single content generation group?
So we have offices that are obviously headquartered in the UK, but we also have a very large, fully robust New York City office. We have brand studios in both. The examples I showed you were from the UK and produced out of the UK, but I can say we're working on things in-house in US for US brands using our US content studio. So our brand studio is called Independent Ignite, and it's there are essentially staff on both sides of the pond.
We're going to continue the discussion of the content studio in particular in one of the roundtables in just a few minutes. Kylie, thank you so much.
Thank you.